Howdy my totally as always tubular gamers, and we're back with another ranking video, another Mario ranking video, and today we're going to be ranking the Mario and Luigi series of games. So Mario and Luigi, if you don't know, is a series of RPGs developed by Alpha Dream and published by Nintendo for all of Nintendo's primary handheld consoles from the Game Boy Advance up until the end of the 3DS. The series is, if you couldn't tell, about Mario and Luigi, and it's another Mario RPG series. It builds on top of what Super Mario RPG and even Paper Mario had, and you know, this was the main Mario RPG series for quite a while. And some of these games gained really critical acclaim and are considered some of the best Mario RPGs of them all. There was one on the Game Boy Advance, there was two on the DS, there was two on the 3DS, and then there was also two remakes released for the 3DS as well, until Alpha Dream declared bankruptcy in 2019, and that was the last of the series. Will there be another one in the future? Who knows? But the games we got, for the most part, were pretty swell. Some of these are considered some of the best Mario RPGs of them all. People really liked them thanks to their interesting control scheme where Mario was A, Luigi was B, their awesome writing, just how hilarious they were, how just generally different they were from other Mario games and other Mario RPGs, and then the use of Bowser in these games. In some of the games, Bowser is the main antagonist, but in some other games, he's just a total goofball, and I always loved whenever they used Bowser in a non-villain role. A lot of these games were some of the first RPGs I ever played. It was some of the games that really helped me get into the genre along with Paper Mario, and you know, I think even nowadays, these are great introductions to RPGs, and I can say that about every single one. And today we're going to rank them worst to best. We're going to be looking at everything, how they aged, how's the writing, how's the gameplay, how's the pacing, all of that fun stuff. Let me know your favorite down below. I know some of these games are really beloved, so yeah, let me know your favorite. Let's just get right into it. What do I think is the weakest in the series? And so here we have Mario & Luigi Paper Jam, releasing in 2015 for the 3DS. Now, Paper Jam's pretty interesting. It combines Mario & Luigi and Paper Mario as well. It really is a crossover, and unfortunately, it's not as exciting as it sounds. So the game sees Luigi accidentally opening a book containing the entire Paper Mario universe and all of its continents, spreading across the Mushroom Kingdom like a bad zit. So it's up to Mario and Luigi along with Paper Mario to stop Paper Bowser and regular Bowser and save both Princess Peaches. When it comes to the game's story and writing and characters, I think it is really honestly rather lackluster. I think that this could have been so much more, and it could have had so much more charm, personality, interesting characters, or just something different. This just feels really vanilla, generic, and it feels like they went with like the easiest, safest route and didn't try anything really all that interesting. The writing, there's plenty of funny moments, like when Peach is able, Paper Peach I will add, is able to just go through the cage that she's in. But I would say the story, the characters, or really lack thereof characters, and the writing are generally a disappointment for not only the Paper Mario series, but the Mario and Luigi series as well. I just wasn't digging it, and you know, I don't think that's a hot take. I think most people weren't digging it when it comes to what I just mentioned. Now, when it comes to the gameplay, it plays very much like a Mario and Luigi game, much more than a Paper Mario game. If you've played a Mario and Luigi game before, you're going to feel right at home here, and it doesn't really do all that much to stray different from the other ones. It just doesn't do it as well. You still explore around an overworld, you interact with NPCs, you solve minor puzzles. Now there's some Paper Mario puzzles thrown in there as well, like where he gets super thin or he flies around in the airplane, and you know, they did these puzzles better in the other Paper Mario games, but they're here. When it comes to the combat, Paper Mario has his own button like how Mario and Luigi do. And the combat, it really feels just as alright as it did in the last couple Mario and Luigi games. They got some interesting team-up moves, and Paper Mario's moves I think are definitely more interesting than what Mario and Luigi themselves have. But I generally walked away from this one feeling like they just didn't really take advantage of any of the gimmicks, and that's how I really feel about the whole game. I thought that it was generally pretty bland. I thought these worlds were a bit barren. The game's not too exciting. The pacing isn't really all that exciting, and the story didn't keep me going, so I thought it was kind of boring, and I really did think this game was relatively unexciting. It doesn't take advantage of any of the gimmicks at all, and the gameplay is somewhat shallow. The presentation was fine enough and the music is like okay, but I really did think that this game was somewhat shallow, and it showed that Alpha Dream, I just don't really know what was going on here. They just weren't really capturing the magic of the first couple Mario and Luigi games. And it seems most people didn't think so either, as the game didn't have a totally tubular reception. I think really it's better to play legit any other Mario and Luigi game and almost any other Paper Mario game. And so here we have Mario & Luigi Dream Team releasing for the 3DS in 2013. This game was part of the Year of Luigi, and you know what? It certainly got Luigi in it. The plot is pretty strange to this one as well. It's all about these like pillow people and going into Luigi's dreams, and you know what? That's how I'm gonna leave it. The story is fine enough in this one. The writing is pretty humorous for the most part, and there's actually some unique characters here. I think the story was pretty alright. Could they have done a hell of a lot more with it? Absolutely, and I don't think it really still puts Luigi in the best light, but I think the story and the characters and the writing and all of that was fine. Now when it comes to the gameplay, it's not all that different from the other Mario and Luigi games. There is an overworld where you explore around with Mario and Luigi and you solve puzzles, interact with NPCs, all that good stuff. There's also the dream levels where it's in Luigi's dreams and it's Mario aided by Luigi, known as Dream Luigi, and you actually get to interact with Luigi on the touchscreen, and I always thought that this was pretty novel. I mean, it's kind of funny. And you know what? It is something different. I'll give it that. It's something different interacting with Luigi and just kind of groping his face. It's humorous. And when it comes to the combat, it's very similar, like legit very similar to what you've come to expect. Mario's A, Luigi's B. They have a bunch of team-up moves. And if you're fighting in the dream world, you can have Luigi and area attacks, which incorporate the Luiginoids, such as tilting the console to steer a rolling ball of them to run over an enemy or summoning a bunch of them. This is a fine little gimmick. It's something different. The boss fights see giant battles returning from Bowser's Inside Story, and I think these are actually pretty good, where you hold the 3DS sideways and you actually have to interact with it, and these are actually pretty fun. This is like the highlight of the combat, is the giant battles, which is a nice change of pace. Now, I'd say the gameplay is solid enough, but something that really grinded my gears was how many tutorials there are and how slow the game is because of it. They really introduce everything to you like hella slow. They don't introduce anything and let you try it first. Nope, you gotta watch the tutorial, they gotta explain it to you, and it really slows the pacing down. In fact, this game just isn't all that exciting because of how slow sometimes it goes. It honestly goes on too long. The game is the longest of the Mario and Luigi games, and it really does feel the longest. I don't think the gameplay is all that different from the other Mario and Luigi games, and to be honest, I just thought it was getting kind of stale, especially by the end of it, and that was really my ending sentiments with the game, was like, yeah, it's pretty good, and if you like the Mario and Luigi series, you'll like this game, but it doesn't do anything you really haven't seen before. I don't think the dreams were all that exciting. I think they're kind of disappointing, and I think that the gameplay, yeah, it just feels a bit stale. And so should you play it if you love the series and you haven't tried it for some reason, go ahead, otherwise you can probably skip it. And so here we have Mario and Luigi Partners in Time releasing for the DS in 2005. Now I remember when this game came out and I remember thinking it was pretty decent, but looking back, while it still is decent, I wouldn't say it's one of the best Mario RPGs or a must play, but you know, it is pretty different from the other Mario and Luigi games. It is about the partners in time, but what does that really mean? Well, the plot sees Professor Egad creating a time machine and Peach trying it out by herself, and she doesn't return, but a bunch of these creepy aliens known as shrooms from the past return, and so Mario and Luigi head back to the past to go save Peach from this mysterious alien race known as the shrooms, and they meet up with their baby counterparts. Baby Mario, Baby Luigi, they get their own buttons, so now Mario and Luigi are AB, Baby Mario, Baby Luigi, they're XY. Now, when it comes to the premise, I think it's actually pretty decent. It's different from most Mario RPGs. I think it's interesting that they brought the babies in, and yeah, it's different. The shrooms themselves, they're okay. I mean, they don't really amount to all that much, but they're a decent antagonist. The writing is nowhere near as funny as the previous Mario and Luigi game, or really Mario RPGs in general, but I think it's fine enough. The game is definitely a bit darker than, say, the other Mario and Luigi games, but I'll say the writing, character, story, all that, it's fine enough. It's fine to good. The actual gameplay is pretty solid as well. The gameplay is really almost the same as Superstar Saga, but they just add the babies to it. So it's not just AB you're using for everything, but also XY. And you know, this really carries over to everything. The overworld sees you exploring around, solving puzzles now with the babies, interacting with people, the usual. When it comes to the combat, it's also the same as Superstar Saga, where Mario and Luigi team up with the AB, but the babies are here as well. Sometimes you'll use up to all 4 buttons, and you know, I think a lot of these moves are actually pretty cool. There are some really cute ones in here. And the truth is if you liked Superstar Saga's combat and overworld exploration, you're gonna like this. Do I feel like that it doesn't do as much as it could? Absolutely. I think the baby gimmick, you know, it's a good concept, and I like that they introduced the other buttons with it, but to be honest, it just doesn't really add all that much. I don't think it really created all that interesting of puzzles or moves. I mean, it's still fun. The game is still fun. There's still plenty of different combinations to use, but I just feel like they could have added so much more with the baby gimmick that they just don't. And even when I was way younger playing this game, I just remember feeling a similar sentiment where it's like, I wish they did more with the babies, or I wish that there was just more going on here. When it comes to the game's presentation and music, I think it's all very solid. I think it's actually pretty good. The battle theme super slaps. I'd say the general pacing and length of the game is also pretty solid, doesn't go on too long like, say, Dream Team does, and you know, this is a pretty decent Mario RPG. Now, I don't know why they never remade this one. I feel like this game needed the remake more than Bowser's Inside Story, but what you have here is a more than fine enough capable Mario RPG, and if you're a fan of the series or Mario RPGs in general, I think it's worth trying. Is it as memorable or awesome as, say, some of the other Mario RPGs or Mario and Luigi games? No, but it still is a pretty decent game. And so here we have Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga, initially releasing for the Game Boy Advance in 2003. However, it was remade in 2017 for the 3DS. I have never tried this version, and so we're just talking about the Game Boy Advance version. Now, I remember playing Superstar Saga way back in the day. It was one of the first RPGs I ever played, and I absolutely fell in love with not only the game, but the genre as a whole. And you know, all these years later, this game absolutely still holds up. The game's plot was really out there, where it sees Mario and Luigi traveling to this new kingdom, the Bean Bean Kingdom, in order to combat Cackletta and Fawful. Basically, they show up at Princess Peach's castle and steal her voice and turn her voice into bombs. I am not even kidding, she just drops bombs instead of words, and so yep, they go up against Cackletta and Fawful, and Bowser's there as well. And I will just say some shit goes down and leave it at that. This game was just wild. I thought the story was crazy then, and even looking back now, I'm like, this is one of the most unique Mario games like ever. And the writing is hilarious. Fawful is great. It's one of the funnier Mario games. Like, no, the writing was excellent. It's really original. There's a ton of original characters. Cackletta is just weird as hell. Luigi's great here. He's one of the funniest characters. You know what? I just gotta say that when it comes to the writing, the story, the premise, setup, all of that stuff, it is gold. It is really good, actually, and it still holds up. It's really good. When it comes to the gameplay, it was the first in the Mario and Luigi series, so yeah, it might be a little bit more basic than what you've expected if you've only played the later games, but it still absolutely holds up. There isn't a crazy gimmick here, because the gimmick was that it was Mario and Luigi together. Mario's the A button, Luigi's B. It's been like that, I know, for all the games after this, but that was the gimmick here. There's two parts to it. There's where you're exploring the overworld, where you solve some puzzles, you interact with people, and you do a fair amount of platforming. This game actually is way more platforming than I remembered, and I was kind of surprised with how much platforming there is, and it was a nice change of pace. This is actually pretty decent platforming as well, so that's cool. And then the combat, it is your typical Mario turn-based combat, where you got to interact with every attack you do, or when you're getting attacked, you can actually defend off those attacks. And you know, I've always thought this is great. I thought it was great in Super Mario RPG. I thought it was great in Paper Mario, and I think it's great in Superstar Saga also. I love how you have to interact with all the moves, and it keeps you really engaged despite it being turn-based. You can never just turn your brain off. You really do have to pay attention. And the moves Mario and Luigi get are great. The way they're able to team up with each other, I actually really like it. And I think it's still some of the best moves the series has ever seen. They have items they can use, which are typical Mario items. The Fire Flower wants to give you Carpal Tunnel. And I really do like everything that is in this game. This game has so many memorable moments to it and memorable fights. Like, there are so many great parts to it. And I do think the combat, it's still really good. Yes, it has aged a little more than other Mario and Luigi games, but I still think it really does hold up. It holds up just as well as the old Paper Mario games. Same for the writing and just the pacing in general. It isn't the longest game, but I think that it's short and sweet when it comes to RPGs. I think it's a really tight, compact RPG that really gets everything in, and it just kind of ends also. It ends with a really difficult final boss. I'm going to just say the final boss can go fuck itself. As a kid, I hated this final boss. It was so hard, and yeah, I still think it's pretty difficult nowadays. I have no problem saying Superstar Saga is one of the best Mario RPGs, and I absolutely do recommend it. It's so unique, it's funny, it's got a lot of charm, and I have no problem recommending it. And here we have Mario & Luigi Bowser's Inside Story, releasing for the DS in 2009, and then the 3DS as a remake in 2019. I never tried the remake, so we're looking at just the original DS game. Now, Bowser's Inside Story, I remember being really hyped up for the release. I remember getting it day one, being so excited, and not being disappointed. I was like blown away with how good Mario & Luigi Bowser's Inside Story is, and all these years later, it's not even close for me. This is not only one of the best Mario RPGs ever, but this is the best Mario and Luigi game. The story is just so wild and so out there, and all these years later I'm just like, what the hell were they thinking? And so the story really has two parts to it. It sees Fawful returning from Superstar Saga as he begins infecting Toads, turning them into these giant balloons, and Bowser pretty much goes after him. But at the same time, Bowser actually just gets this ability to suck, and he sucks up Mario and Luigi. So Mario and Luigi are traveling inside Bowser and trying to help him out while Bowser's going up against Fawful. Like, even all these years later, I'm just like, what even is this story? It is so just kooky and different. The writing is probably the best in the series. Fawful's the best antagonist, easy. Bowser is at his best here because Bowser's not the antagonist. He's actually a protagonist, and he's wonderful. He's super goofy and charming, and he's just great. I love everything with Bowser. I really do think he has some of the best writing in the game. Mario and Luigi, though, they got some crazy shit going on inside of him also, and the fact that Bowser interacts with them is just hilarious. Like, if you want peak Mario RPG writing, it's probably right here because it's just so good and it's so weird, and it totally translates over to the gameplay as there's two parts. There's where you're Bowser and Mario and Luigi. When you're Bowser, you're in the overworld, and it's much more like the other Mario and Luigi games where you kind of solve puzzles and go from area to area. It's still overhead, and yeah, if you played any of the other Mario and Luigi games, you'll feel right at home here. Bowser, though, takes up two buttons. When you're Mario and Luigi, though, it's really odd. You're just inside Bowser. It is from a 2D perspective, and it's much more like a 2D platformer where you have to solve some puzzles and fix Bowser's internal pains, and I'll leave it at that. When it comes to the combat, it's different but similar at the same time. Bowser uses more than one button, like I mentioned, and his fights I think are just fantastic. I love fighting as Bowser in this game. It is so great. I don't know why he never came back in the series. I have always just had so much fun with Bowser's combat in this game. Like, his punch was just crazy satisfying. His fights are always engaging, and he even gets to turn super big for the boss fights, and yeah, these are pretty easy and pretty silly, and I think Dream Team actually has better big boss fights, but I always like these. Mario and Luigi, on the other hand, is much more what you would expect from the series, where Mario's A, Luigi's B. They have a bunch of team-up moves, and you fight just the weirdest shit. You fight stuff inside Bowser. I can't get over that, like how weird that is, and just different for a Mario game, but how out of this world they go with it and how unique it gets. I think the combat is great, the exploration is great, the boss fights are great. The final boss is like the best final boss in like any Mario RPG. It is so good. Like, I really have nothing but high praise for this game. I think it is a superb RPG. It's probably one of the best RPGs like ever made, and one of the best Mario RPGs, if not just like the best Mario RPG. It was really hard to decide what the best Mario RPG is, but Bowser's Inside Story is just a fantastic game. I have absolutely zero problem recommending the game if you like Mario, if you like RPGs, or if you even don't like Mario but you like RPGs. Definitely check this one out. It is so unforgettable. It is incredibly memorable in so many ways. The gameplay absolutely holds up. It's still great. And then there's just so many unique aspects to it that I would love to see this game get some kind of big HD remake. I know it had a remake on the 3DS and it added the Bowser Jr. thing. I don't really care for the graphical style, and I've heard that it runs a lot slower, but I would love to see some real high definition remake of this game because it is just fantastic. I feel like this is one of my colder takes, saying that Bowser's Inside Story is the best of the Mario and Luigi series. I think most people think that. If not, let me know down below. And that's really it for this video. If you made it to this part of the video, comment bricks is in what you use to build a house. Shout out to my one Patreon. You know who you are. Thank you so much. If you like the video, like, share, comment, all that great stuff. Bye-bye.